Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, From Payroll to Procure to Pay, How to Enable Your Remote Workers. My name is Amy Keenan, and I am your host. Excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your day. And of course, I couldn't go without saying happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And speaking of that, we want to talk about how we can enable our remote workers. And we have Greenshades and MetaViewer joining us to present. I'd like to do some quick housekeeping items before we get started. So this webinar is going to be recorded, and yes, we will be sending this out to you. There are some polls that I'd love for you to participate in that I will launch throughout the webinar. And of course, if you do have any questions, you'll notice that there is a Q&A section and our chat section, so you can put your questions in either one, and we will save some time at the end to get to those for you. So let's get started. First, I would love to do some introductions. We have with us today presenting Will from Greenshades, and he is the account executive. He's been with Greenshades for 5 years, and Will got into the software sales because he enjoys listening to company issues and developing solutions to help solve their problems. Will has set the sales record at Greenshades 4 different times. We also have Doug from MetaViewer, or Metafile, I should say, and he will be presenting. He's the regional representative, and he is responsible for identifying opportunities to improve operational efficiencies for clients in the Midwest and Western regions. He has 20 years of experience in the document management and AP automation space. In his current position at Metafile, and as the owner of a regional document solutions provider. Doug holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from the Carlson School of Management. Welcome, both of you, to presenting today. Very excited to have you.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. In our agenda, you'll see we are going to Greenshades is going to take it away with the year of the deskless worker, and then we'll follow up with Metafile for empowering your workforce, work anywhere workforce. And again, Q&A will happen at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Will.
Thank you there, Amy.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate everyone's time for joining us today. Like Amy said, my name is Will. I'm be talking about the year of the deskless worker. Really me talking about the current sentiment of employees around the world, how they feel in this kind of remote environment, what constitutes a remote employee, and then touch on some of the pain points organizations are experiencing in the payroll and HR field, and how Greenshades can assist you. So we can touch the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So from some recent studies, you can see here that kind of an overwhelming majority of employees don't feel connected or supported to their organizations as they are a deskless worker. Whether that's being remote or just not having access to kind of the internal communication tools within the organization. Then kind of losing that feeling of being empowered from the employer. So what that means kind of tells us is that companies don't really have a system or multiple systems in place to empower their employees through communication or, through some of the workflows that employee may need access to that they don't have in this environment. So touch next. Yep, we can move on. So what exactly, does deskless mean? It doesn't mean disconnected. Now, obviously, COVID hopefully is on the tail end of things, but we've all seen a rapid change in employees and how they actually access their work tools. So whether it was an employee that was going in the office every day and is now remote, or kind of a new expanded definition is an employee who just doesn't sit at their desk all day. They may be, out in the field or handling in operations. Majority of employees now classify as a deskless employee. So again, kind of driving that factor that employers need to start considering what tools, systems they have in place to allow their employees access to the information they need to divvy out. Okay.
Will, I'm going to launch a poll just to get a little idea on how people are working nowadays. So if everybody could just fill in, how would you categorize the composition of your workforce at this time? Is everybody on site or still working from home or hybrid of both? I know for me, I'm working from home. Have been for a very long time, actually. It looks like we have mostly office workers or a combination. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
And you can see our results here.
We can jump to the next slide there, Amy.
Sure.
So in regards to payroll HR, now here we have a quick list of kind of the 14 must-have features. The key takeaway here and kind of the industry verbiage is employee self-service. So, do you think to yourself, do you have, once again, a system or multiple systems in place for employees to be able to access the key information they need, as well as communicate things to the employer? So that's things such as maybe traditionally where you would hand out earning statements, maybe that's done online now, or employees don't feel comfortable going into the office, or if they're needing to communicate changes around mailing addresses or moving into new territories and the compliance tax adjustments that come with that. It's kind of some key features here that we see around the US where a lot of organizations are struggling with now. If we move on the next slide here, we can really talk about from the employer side of things, what does this remote deskless worker mean? It means a lot more complexities around compliance. So you may be an organization that traditionally had all of your employees, coming into work, all living within the local area. But since COVID, or as the world has transitioned, a lot of employees are now remote or out-of-state workers. With that comes new compliance measures you have to comply with. So that would be things around new state or local taxes you may not be accustomed to, dealing with. That could be things around things like sick leave, vacation, kind of compliance measures that traditionally a lot of industries, companies didn't have to worry about because everyone was in one place. Well, managing that, can take a full team of people, a lot of time and effort. There are plenty of systems in place that can help you with that. One being here, Greenshades. So I think we could talk about kind of Greenshades here next.
Sure. And I'm just going to briefly launch another poll to hear who has made changes and have those changes remained in place today from everything that's gone on the last few years. All right. So it looks like everybody's a little mixture of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Okay.
Okay. So everything I kind of just covered, Greenshades is able to help you with. So those unfamiliar with Greenshades, we're a payroll HR organization. Clients all over the country. We're actually based here in Jacksonville, Florida, though. So what we offer is a end-to-end payroll and HR platform. So that handles everywhere from onboarding to offboarding, payroll processing, compliance measures, tax filing. So again, if you had, traditionally employees all in one location, it was easy to communicate, it was easy to handle compliance measures. If that's a change for you, you may be in the market for a solution that can simplify that. So what we do is we offer employee self-service portal, which I touched on, to allow employees to access their information and make communications to you. We have those tax and filing compliance measures. If you're unfamiliar of a new state or local legislation change that could affect how you're paying employees, paying taxes, that's something we could take off your plate. So, we've been around for 20 plus years. You can see some of our stats here. We help thousands of organizations just like yourselves kind of simplify their payroll and HR processes. All right, so it's kind of, wrapping up things again. Everything's changed. There are a large number of deskless workers. That term deskless has kind of changed, to reflect both, traditional office workers that are now, out in the field or working remotely. With those changes come a lot of things around compliance measures. A lot of organizations aren't equipped with or have the communication tools in the payroll HR space to streamline their processes. So that's the last slide here. Just has some of our information and it will be available to you. So if you would like to schedule a discovery call, demonstration, want to access our website, look at some of the webinars we do as well, feel free to, follow up with the contact information listed here.
Yes, I have a slide at the end with everybody's contact information. Just wanted to make it a little bit easier. So that way we'd all have it on one slide. But I do want to launch another poll before we head over from payroll to procure to pay. So let's do our last payroll poll. How does the majority of your workforce access payroll and HR information? Let us know. And this is also kind of a even distribution of answers as well. A little bit of everything. So thank you for taking those few polls. I'm going to hand it over to Doug at MetaViewer, but first we're going to just launch a poll, Doug, just to get a little understanding on if anyone is looking or interested in learning more about AP automation. And I appreciate taking this poll. Okay, I'll let you take it away, Doug.
All right, thanks, Amy. Welcome, everybody. It's good to have you all with us today. As Amy said, my name is Doug Bertram. I'm one of the regional managers for Metafile. I've probably been in this industry a little bit longer than I care to admit, but MetaViewer is a company. We've actually been around for 40 years, really helping people with automation over that entire span. And really, shuffling paper has always been a problem. It's always been something that people were interested in dealing with. And with the rise of COVID, obviously that kind of exasperated it a little bit and made things even more critical. Next slide. Perfect. So why is automation important and how does it enable remote workforces? Like I said, a lot of the traditional advantages really still apply. Hard to control paper as it floats around an office. Pre-COVID, we had quite a few clients that had multiple locations, and how do you get paper from one place to the next? And now that people are working at their homes, either, like I said, some like you said, some of you guys said part-time or all the time, trying to get that paper. Reducing costs, that really varies. I mean, probably the most obvious ones are, if you're taking too long to push paper around, you're missing discounts, late fees, courier or FedEx charges to get things from one remote facility to the next. But over the years, we've sponsored a ton of different papers, kind of trying to keep our fingers on the points of the workforce, and a lot of them look at it's amazing to think of how much time is lost as people are hunting for stuff that they lost. And when you're shuffling paper around, it's much more prone to those kinds of errors and the costs associated with those clients, those people hunting around for everything. Automation, capturing things as soon as they come into the organization to provide that control and that visibility and everything. AP is one of the primary areas that we, a lot of our clients that, maybe look to start, probably because there's probably the most paper in that, and it's very a complex process when you're matching things to POs or coding things up to make your financials more accurate and those types of things. And really the paper that's generated in the AP process, you don't really have a lot of control over that. That comes from the outside. Your vendors are sending these invoices in, but really that message can be expanded to other areas like AR and HR. AR, proof of delivery, that used to be a very big solution for us as well. Next slide. So efficiency of straight through invoice processing. There's an old adage that work smarter, not harder, and that's really where automation can really help you. Let the system do things so people don't have to, and you can let your people move on to more intelligent stuff rather than some mindless tasks. So the remote workforce, they don't really have the luxury of walking down the hall or accessing the traditional places throughout the office that they would go to get their answers. And so that's where the system maybe does some of the stuff automatically. So when the invoices come into the organization, the system captures those and actually processes them before you even know that they exist. So some of those types of things, eliminating the data entry. So an efficient automation solution can extract the data out of those documents, so you don't have to do that mindless manual entry of data into an automation solution or in your financial system, because those two systems will talk amongst each other. The system can also be programmed to remember how things were processed the last time. So you only need to focus on your exceptions, and you can see the three examples of automation there. If you extract a purchase order number, it can communicate and automatically match that to what's been received against that purchase order. Coding, for the most part, most vendors, you're coding it to the same kind of account codes time and time again. So why don't we start with how was it coded last time, and then you can adjust as necessary. And same thing with approvals, right? So a lot of times you're sending, your IT vendors are always going to the IT department or for their approvals and things like that. So why not have the system remember that, and you can just take care of the ones that aren't in that space. Next slide. Enhanced access to invisibility, right? So it's always been nice to be able to have things instantly at your fingertips, not have to dig around in file cabinets or walk around the office to try and find things. And really this remote solution is really kind of the key to that, right? So capturing those documents as soon as they come into the organization. When I need to send something to you, I click a button and I do what I need to do with it. I click a button and it's immediately to you or to the next person in the queue that they need to have it. When I'm looking for something, I don't have to dig around in those file cabinets and that type of stuff as well. The system can also track all movements, and so from accuracy of control and audit trails, I can see who coded an invoice, who approved it, what kind of notes did they apply to it. I don't have to today in a paper-based world when you've got a question on an invoice, you're shooting emails back and forth. So now not only do you have documents, but you've got these emails floating back and forth, and you had to somehow pull all that information together. So having a solution that can control that and automate that whole process and really track and capture all that audit trail right there in the same system is very key. So really, because this automation can do a lot of those things automatically, it allows you to capitalize on the strengths of your people to analyze the data that's moving there. And that can really help you improve your business processes, your vendor relations, profitability, and then really precise control over your working capital. And actually from a remote perspective too, I would say your people, when they're working at home, I know personally, I work at home now, and a lot less distractions. I don't have as many people popping into my office and asking me questions. So my kids are all grown up, so I'm a very quiet office here at home. But even when you do have kids around, they're in school or whatever, but you have a lot less distractions in that remote workforce. So why not utilize them to really focus on those analytics and make your business better and stronger? Next slide. Empowering the remote workforce. AP automation provides a host of benefits. We've talked about a lot of this already. Being more efficient, and time is money, right? So the better I can be at doing things and focusing on more value add type of tasks, having that instant collaboration with people to be able to send it from one step to the next without having to courier it or FedEx it or scan it and email it or those types of things, having the system be able to really control that. Security is really key here too. It's controlling something as soon as it comes into the organization and giving everybody access to that information as they need. And really the compliance aspect, an automated system can programmatically control your business rules rather than leaving it up to human interpretation. If you think about, how many years your business has been in the industry, and you've put business processes in place, and over the time, you've seen people come and go, and it becomes really that childhood game of telephone where the original intent of your business processes was passed down from this person to that person to that person. By the time it gets to the end person after 20, 30, 40 years, it's not really, your business process isn't doing what it was intended to do. And that's where your automation system that's got your business rules programmed into it, it's not up for interpretation. Everything is, your security controls are all the way that they should be. Next slide. All right, so expanding beyond AP, AR, and HR, as I said, because of the complexities of the AP process and the paper that you don't really have control over, that's where a lot of organizations want to start with an automation solution to really bring that efficiencies to the forefront. But we have a lot of clients that once they realize the benefits in that area, and some clients that actually maybe they're more customer driven, they have more orders to process or things like that. So AR becomes maybe sometimes more important to some organizations than the AP side of things. We used to do a lot in our earlier years of proof of delivery, being able to, when a client questions an invoice, you have your customer service agent has everything at their fingertips to be able to find everything and respond while that person's on the phone. So then you can get paid quicker. HR, those solutions, that's really more about security, being able to securely control who has access to what. In an HR world, it's if you're a manager, you only have access to your employees' documents, and that's all. A corporate the C-level suite, they have probably a little bit broader, and then maybe the HR, obviously they've got access to everything, and having a system that can control all that is really key. Okay. So I think that's mostly what I had. Just kind of a quick introduction to automation and how it can benefit in the AP and automation spaces for both HR, accounts receivable, order processing, all the different aspects of your organization. And we'll have some of our contact information up here shortly. If you'd like to reach out to me, we can certainly set up a more in-depth discussion for your specific needs. All right, back to you, Amy. Questions?
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, if you did want to learn more about it, feel free to take this poll and Doug can reach out to you after the webinar. And I will be sharing their contact information, but now is the time to put in your Q&A questions in the chat or the Q&A section of the panel. You can feel free to put them in either of those and we will start answering them now for you. Let's see. Oops. I'm in the Q&A. So this question is it could be for both of you, I guess. What is the typical time frame of getting up and running with either Greenshades or MetaViewer?
Sure.
You both want to take that?
I'll let you go first. You start first.
Yeah, our question is a big, it depends.
Yes.
There's so many different solutions with so many different timeframes. I mean, if you're going all in, It's typically about a quarter's worth of implementation. So we typically like to have clients go live in the beginning of a quarter. That way all the information is flowing, but we do have people going mid-quarter. So it's typical full implementation, but things could be faster. Depending on the size of your company, it could go past that, but typical safe time frame there.
Yeah, I would say it kind of depends on a lot of different factors as well. But typically one of the things that we learned over the years is we used to build everything from scratch for a client. We spend 3-4 days consulting and then build everything from scratch. Today, we implement at least for that AP solution, since that's a big area. We are finding ourselves building 90-95% of the same things over and over again, and we actually built a best practices approach to AP that we call Fast Track. And so when my guys load that software now, in within a matter of hours, they can load the base AP automation solution, and it's communicating with your ERP. And so we can do that in a matter of days. And now we can really focus on the rest of it, training you and teaching you all about it, making sure that you feel real comfortable with the system before you pick live. So we start working right away. Timeline, it can also be impacted whether you choose to put MetaViewer on your servers in your organization, or we actually have a hosted facility that we can actually host your application. So we can do it both ways. So all those are kind of factors that go into it. I'd certainly be happy to talk about your specific situation and your ERP and really give you a little bit more detail on that.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. We're happy to answer them before we wrap things up. And thank you again for joining us and taking the polls. And again, we will be sending out the recording as well. Okay, well, I guess that's it. So
right,
thank
thanks,
you,
Amy.
everyone, for, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for presenting. And thank you all for being and tuning in. And we will see an email from us in the next day or two with the recording. So thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks, you too.